Hi, in this video I would like to show you how you can do minimalist style phase shifting on the Deluge. I'm going to show you a couple of ways of how to set this up and maybe share some ideas of how to apply this in a musical context. So the basic concept is to have a couple or more things play at a slightly different speed so they go out of phase over time. This was originally done by using tape loops, which didn't have the exact same length, so naturally they would go out of phase, creating interesting rhythms and textures. And we can recreate this by just having multiple synth clips, for example, on the Deluge with slightly different lengths. So let me show you right away what I mean by this. So I'm punching in this very simple sequence, and then I'm going to make a second synth clip with the same sequence. And then I'm going into the second sequence, and I'm zooming all the way in to the smallest increment, which is a 128th triplet. And I'm scrolling all the way to the right. I'm holding Shift, and I'm making this one increment shorter. Let me maybe turn off the light here so you can see this. Making this one increment shorter. Now, if I hit play on this, you should be able to see and hear how they slowly go out of phase. Bottom row is moving slightly faster than the top row. I'm going to change the sound a little bit because it's not very well suited for what I have in mind. So I'm going into the synth clip. I'm pressing Shift and Synth. I want to change this to a saw, filter it, add some filter envelope modulation. And I'm adjusting the filter envelope. Maybe a little less envelope modulation. And I'm also adjusting the amp envelope. Maybe a tiny bit of release. Good. Now I want to have the same sound for the second synth clip. For this to work, they need to be different synth sound because otherwise they won't play simultaneously. So for this, I'm going to save this sound as, let's say, 188, saving this, and then I'll save it again as 188A. So now, this top row is 188A, and the bottom row is 1 right now. So I'm going to go to 188, and now they should play simultaneously and sound the same. Very nice. Now, this is just to show you the basic concept of things. Of course, this isn't very interesting as is, but what we could do to make this more interesting is, for example, add more of those synth clips. So I'm going to do this. And for this first, I'm going to go into this first synth clip, and I'm going to save this as 188B. And then I'm going to save it again as 188C. And maybe one last time is 188D. Now, first one is 188D. I'm going to set this back to 188A. And then I'm going to copy this bottom row, set it to B, copy it again, and set this to C. And one last time, I'll set it to D. Of course, these all have the same sequence length. Now I have to change this because I want them all to move at a different speed. So I'm going into the third synth clip. Again, zooming all the way in, scrolling to the right, and then I'm going to make this one more increment shorter. And for the next one, I'm going to make it 2 increments shorter. I could also go longer, but I figured that it makes things easier if everything's just moving to the left, because I can see it on the same screen and then I don't have to scroll left and right to figure out the exact length of my sequence. So for the last one, I'm gonna make it 4 increments shorter. So now one thing I want to do is make these guys all blue because they're supposed to play at the same time. I launch them all, I'm scrolling back, and I'll hit play. Now this is only slightly more interesting, but check out what happens if I choose different notes for the different sequences. So here's what we get. Now I like this, but I think the shifting of the face is happening a bit fast, and it's very noticeable that at the end of a bar something is happening. So to avoid that, what I can do is just double the length of the sequence, and then remove every other note. I'm going to do this for all of them. And then just going to go twice as fast. So it should still sound the same. Now there's one last thing I have to do. I'm going to turn off the light again. I have to adjust the offset of the sequence lengths again. So again, I'm scrolling all the way and going to the right. And this first one was offset by 1 increment. Next one by 2. Next one by 3. And the last one by 4. Let's have a listen. It's still quite noticeable. Let's just remove these notes. And now I'm going twice as fast again, which would be 480. Now the shifting is happening at the same speed, but the shift is more gradual because we only have 2 notes before a shift starting to happen. We could even only use 1, but I think it's fine the way it is. Yeah, this is one thing you can do. I'm going to leave this running maybe so you can see that there's going to be really interesting rhythms and melodies emerging out of this. Now, one advantage of using multiple synth clips for this is that I can individually adjust their sound to, let's say, bring one of the patterns more to the fore or to the background. So maybe by filtering this one, it's less noticeable. Or, I mean, any changes you like. And add delay to 1. Keep in mind here, because of the fast tempo, if the delay is tempo synced, it's also going to be really fast. Now, if you're only using single note patterns with different notes, you can also do this in just one synth clip. Let me show you how. For this, I'm going to mute these guys. And then we could, for example, in this first one, just set different rows to different lengths. So again, I'm scrolling in, and then for maybe this A, I'm going to make this one increment shorter, and for the G, one increment longer. And for the E, 2 increments shorter, and for the D, 2 increments longer. And now all I have to do is punch in those notes. And here's what we get. Now, this has different advantages. I can easily adjust the sound of the entire thing, maybe a reverb, which I'm sure sounds good in this. And while we're here, one thing I figured out is kind of nice is if this sound has a long release. I'm going to change this up again. I'm going to increase the sustain and the release. I'm going to get rid of this filter envelope modulation. Maybe a slower attack. Even slower. Gonna move the sustain all the way up to 50, because what I'm aiming for here is kind of a pad, a drone pad, with just a little bit of a moving texture, because the notes get re-triggered at different times. So in the beginning, it's very noticeable that there's this one bar. But after a while, notes are just happening at different times. Plus, with everything in just one synth clip, it's easy to mute individual notes. I'm gonna add delay to this. Again, I'm making it slower because of the fast tempo. Could easily have a beat under this. Delay and reverb helps to wash this even further. could add more notes. These two are in sync now. If I wanted to, I could offset this top one also. Cool. Now, as you can hear, this is more about the texture than the actual rhythm. With the snappier envelopes, it's more about the rhythms, I think. I'm gonna go back to what I had before. With something like this, also, of course, I could add a beat. And because it's very modal, it would also be easy to add a bass line. So I'm making a new synth clip here, a new synth sound. This time I'm sticking with the square wave, but I'm gonna add some pulse width modulation. Yeah, something like this. Or maybe 4 bars. This is kind of cool, the filter movements. I'm gonna modulate the low pass filter cutoff frequency with LFO1. Make it slower. And a little less. Here, of course, because I have those 5 different synth clips, I could always change the pattern, because who says I can't? So we're still all in the dark. I forgot about the light. One fun thing to try out is also to use the same melody. Simple melodies work best, and have it go out of phase. So I'm going to try this here real quick. I'm going to go into here and going to punch in this sequence. I'm going to do the same thing for all the... I'm going to turn off drum and bass for a second, and now I'm curious to hear how this sounds. Now, at first, it sounds more like a delay. I'm wondering if they're going to merge some melodies or other rhythms. Yeah, this is nice. Maybe this could even be a bit slower. If you want to have multiple instances of a sequence with more than just one note in there, like I have right here, but you still want to be able to control the sound collectively with just one control. It's best to use an external synthesizer and set these guys to MIDI. So let me show you how this works. So I set up this JP08 to demonstrate this. I'm using this just because it has polyphony and it's small enough to fit on my table here. So first I'm going to make an audio clip here so I can hear what's coming in from the JP08. I'm going to set this to stereo with monitoring. Good. And now I'm going to go to the first synth clip here. I'm going to turn this into a MIDI clip. And now we can already hear the JP08. Let me see. Oh, and I'm going to try and set this to something reasonable and simple. Now, same as with the synth clips, these can't be the same MIDI channel because then they won't play simultaneously. So for this, I will have to set this to 1A, the next one to 1B, and the third one to 1C, and the last one to 1D. And now they should play simultaneously. And I can adjust the sound for all of them with the controls on the JP08. But like I said before, I actually do prefer the individual controls because it allows me to play around with this, just have this shifting of the rhythm going on, which is the main event here with stuff like this, I think. And then to be able to play with that a little bit. And once you hear something that you like, just bring it to the front. Or if something's kind of messing up the groove, just dial down the level or filter it more so it kind of goes into the background. I think can be a lot of fun. So yeah, this is phase shifting. It's just different pattern lengths. That's all it is, with just very small difference between the lengths of the different patterns. You can always combine these things. Here, for example, I've got on this top row a sequence with this kind of drone texture thing. Like I showed you before. And then here I have 3 sequences, identical ones or almost or identical ones, I'm not sure. I think the bottom one goes down instead of up, yes, but similar ones. And what I did here is copied each one, and I have an instance of them here where they don't go out of phase. So playing these 3. Will always sound like this. What this allows me to do is like bring in this guy, so only this middle one is going to go out of phase. And then down here again I have a drum and a bass track. Also with the bass drum working as a side chain trigger, which can be kind of cool when things get really messy. You still get a feel for where the normal groove is at. So let me show you that. And I think while things are already running, I'm just gonna play around with this a little bit. I hope you found this useful or interesting or entertaining, and thanks a lot for watching.